most wild yet homely narrative which I am about to pen, I neither expect nor solicit belief. But tomorrow I die, and today I would unbirth in my soul. From my infancy, I was especially fond of animals, and was indulged by my parents with a great variety of pets. Observing my partiality for domestic pets, my wife lost no opportunity of procuring those of the most agreeable kind. And a cat. A remarkably large and beautiful animal, entirely black and sagacious to an astonishing degree. Pluto, this was the cat's name, was my favorite pet and playmate. I alone fed him, and he attended me wherever I went about the house. Our friendship lasted in this manner for several years, during which my general temperament and character experienced a radical alteration for the worse. My disease grew upon me, for what disease is like alcohol? And at length even Pluto began to experience the effects of my ill temper. One night, in his fright at my violence, he inflicted a slight wound upon my hand with his teeth. The fury of a demon instantly possessed me. My original soul seemed, at once, to take its flight from my body. I took from my waistcoat pocket a penknife, opened it, and deliberately cut one of its eyes from the socket. When reason returned with the morning, I experienced the sentiment half of horror, half of remorse for the crime of which I had been guilty. But I again plunged into excess, and soon drowned in wine all memory of the deed. In the meantime, the cat slowly recovered. He went about the house as usual, but, as might be expected, fled in extreme terror at my approach. I had so much of my old heart left, as to be at first grieved by this, but this feeling soon gave place to irritation, and then perverseness. One morning, in cold blood, I slipped a noose about its neck and hung it to the limb of a tree. Hung it with tears streaming from my eyes, and with the bitterest remorse at my heart. Hung it because I knew that it had loved me, and because I felt it had given me no reason of offense. Hung it because I knew that in doing so, I was committing a sin, a deadly sin that would so jeopardize my immortal soul as to place it, if such a thing were possible, even beyond the reach of the infinite mercy of the most merciful and most terrible God. For months I could not rid myself of the memory of the cat. I went so far as to regret the loss of the animal, and to look about me among the vile haunts which I now habitually frequented, for with which to supply its place. One night as I sat, half stupefied, my attention was suddenly drawn to some black object. It was a black cat. Upon my touching him, he immediately arose, purred loudly, rubbed against my hand, and appeared delighted with my notice. When I prepared to go home, the animal evinced the disposition to accompany me. I permitted it to do so. I soon found a dislike to it arising within me. By slow degrees, these feelings of disgust and annoyance rose into the bitterness of hatred, and gradually, very gradually, I came to look upon it with unutterable loathing. What added, no doubt, to my hatred of the beast was the discovery that, like Pluto, it also had been deprived of one of its eyes. This circumstance, however, only endeared it to my wife. With my aversion to this cat, however, its partiality for myself seemed to increase. Whenever I sat, it would crouch beneath my chair, or spring upon my knees, covering me with its loathsome caresses. At such times, although I longed to destroy it with a blow, I was yet withheld from doing so by absolute dread of the beast. Alas, neither by day nor by night knew I the blessing of rest any more. I started hourly from dreams of unutterable fear to find the hot breath of the thing upon my face, and its vast weight an incarnate nightmare that I had no power to shake off. Beneath the pressure of torments such as these, the feeble remnant of the good within me succumbed. Evil thoughts became my sole intimates, the darkest and most evil of thoughts. One day, my wife accompanied me into the cellar. The cat followed me down the steep stairs, and, nearly throwing me headlong, exasperated me to madness. Uplifting an axe, I aimed a blow at the animal, but this blow was arrested by the hand of my wife. Goaded by the interference into a rage more than demoniacal, I withdrew my arm from her grasp and buried the axe in her brain. She fell dead upon the spot, without a groan. This hideous murder accomplished, I set myself forthwith to the task of concealing the body. I determined to wall it up in the cellar. When I had finished, I felt satisfied that all was right. The wall did not present the slightest appearance of having been disturbed. My next step was to look for the beast which had been the cause of so much wretchedness, but it appeared that the crafty animal had been alarmed at the violence of my previous anger. It is impossible to describe the blissful sense of relief which the absence of the detested creature occasioned in my bosom. Upon the 4th day of the assassination, a party of police came, very unexpectedly, into the house, and proceeded to make rigorous investigation of the premises. They descended into the cellar. I quivered not a muscle. By the by, gentlemen, this is a very well-constructed house. These walls are solidly put together, and here, through the mere frenzy of bravado, I rapped heavily upon that very portion of the brickwork behind which stood the corpse of the wife of my bosom. But may God shield and deliver me from the fangs of the arch-fiend. No sooner had the reverberation of my blows sunk into silence than I was answered by a voice from within the tomb, by a cry, at first muffled and broken, like the sobbing of a child, and then quickly swelling into one long, loud, and continuous scream, utterly anomalous and inhuman. A howl, a wailing shriek, half of horror and half of triumph, such as might have arisen only out of hell, conjointly from the throats of the damned in their agony, and of the demons that exult in the damnation. For one instant, the party remained motionless, through extremity of terror and of awe. In the next, a dozen stout arms were toiling at the wall. It fell bodily. The corpse, already greatly decayed and clotted with gore, stood erect before the eyes of the spectators. Upon its head, with red extended mouth and solitary eye of fire, sat the hideous beast whose craft had seduced me into murder, and whose informing voice had consigned me to the hangman. I had walled the monster up within the tomb!